Hey folks, welcome to the Friday Football Show on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Alan Saunders, and thanks for watching once again. It is another beautiful Friday afternoon as we transition into the fall portion of the football season in Western Pennsylvania. The leaves are starting to turn, and the chill will be in the air as we play some evening games this Friday, but we're still rolling through the beginning part of the football season, week 3 of the season for our local high school, college, and pro teams, and we'll cover all the action for this weekend here on the Friday Football Show as usual. I'll be joined in a little bit by Louisville Courier-Journal reporter Cameron Teague Robinson. We'll preview this Saturday's ranked matchup at Heinz Field between the Louisville Cardinals and the Pitt Panthers. Plus, we'll talk WPIAL high school football and recruiting, as well as the Steelers and Texans who play this Sunday. And actually, we'll start there with the Steelers and Texans. It's been an interesting start for the Steelers, a 2-0 start to the season, in which they've done a lot of positive things, especially on defense. 10 sacks for that unit. TJ Watt looks like an absolute maniac. Bud Dupree has been phenomenal. They've gotten some takeaways. Ben Roethlisberger, a little bit slower start, but showed some impressive things against the Broncos, and a nice scramble drill touchdown to Deontay Johnson, and a beautiful deep shot to rookie Chase Claypool. The offense is growing. The defense looks great. It just doesn't feel like there's the same level of optimism I think you would usually see from a 2-0 Steelers team this time of year. I think part of that has to do with the untested nature of the opponents they've played so far. I think most people expected the New York Giants to be pretty bad this season, and I think many people were very questionable as to whether or not the Denver Broncos could be good, and certainly without quarterback Drew Lock, who left in the first quarter of that game here at Heinz Field, they certainly don't look to be a challenger in the AFC West. This team that comes into Pittsburgh this Sunday, a little bit different. Yes, the Houston Texans have an 0-2 record, but they are among the expected favorites in the AFC South, thanks to quarterback Deshaun Watson, who is a star in this league, and rightfully so in his own right. I think the big question with the Houston offense is how effective can he be without DeAndre Hopkins, the departed star wide receiver who's now with the Arizona Cardinals. I think it still remains to be seen how effective that offense can be without him. Can they still run the ball without that deep threat? And can Watson still fool defenses without as much talent at the wide receiver position? Will Fuller, obviously, still a very good player. There's a couple other weapons there as well for him to work with, but not the same kind of dynamic all-pro wide receiver talent that he has had in years past. Is that the difference in their 0-2 start? Maybe. It might also be the quality of team they've played. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin said this week that if you look at the 2019 season, he thinks the Texans have played the two best teams in the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs and reigning AFC North champion Baltimore Ravens. That is as tough of an early schedule as anyone has had, playing the Chiefs during their Super Bowl celebration on Thursday night to open the season, and then the Ravens last Sunday. This will be obviously another strong test for these Texans. The Steelers are favored, and favored by a good bit, just shy of a touchdown at Heinz Field on Sunday. I just wonder, at what point do people start to believe in this team? I think they've done a lot of good things. The defense has been spectacular, but if you look at the offense, they've gotten Chase Claypool involved. I think you've seen some signs from Eric Ebron that he can be a dangerous player if he gets some more touches. 2 100-yard rushers in Benny Snell and James Conner, as I wrote about at Steelers Now this week, the only team with 200-yard rushers through 2 weeks, and 2 different guys. So I think the Steelers have a lot to feel good about, but it depends on how they do once the level of competition ramps up. Although I'll say this early season schedule seems to be breaking very nicely for the Steelers. The Tennessee Titans do not look as formidable as they were last year. The Philadelphia Eagles have stumbled early. Really, there's not a lot of big, strong contenders on this Steelers schedule through the month of October, honestly. And so they could have what appears to be a very strong start to this season if they can keep the momentum of this 2-0 start rolling. I expect that to happen this Sunday. I'm not sure where the Steelers Nation confidence has gone. I expect maybe the pandemic has put a damper on things from a fan perspective. I know obviously people are disappointed about not being able to be at Heinz Field, and we'll talk a little bit later about whether that will change or not. But I think the Steelers should be pretty fired up, and Steelers Nation should be pretty fired up about what's happened through 2 weeks, and I expect that to continue against a better opponent this Sunday against the Texans. Let me know what you think. Send off a comment or give me a message on Twitter at @asaunders_PGH. And of course, I will be at Heinz Field for that game on Sunday, and my coverage for all the Steelers stuff you could possibly want, along with Nick Faribault and Mike Osti and Cale Berger and the whole rest of the team at Steelers Now. Make sure to check that out as well. All right, let's talk from pro to college. Saturday, a noon kick on ACC Network, Pitt and Louisville, the first top 25 matchup between ranked teams at Heinz Field since 2009. And I guess Pitt fans don't need to be reminded about what happened that time. There's, with respect for people that still may be in therapy, I won't mention a certain Bearcats kick returner's name, but to preview this week's action, and well, listen, there are some guys on this Louisville team with the athleticism to make a similar impact this week. I talked to Louisville Courier-Journal beat writer Cameron Teague Robinson, and we'll be with that interview in just a second. I'm joined now by Louisville Courier-Journal reporter Cameron Teague Robinson. Cameron, thanks for joining me. Cameron covers the Louisville Cardinals for the Courier-Journal, which is the major newspaper there in Louisville, and it covers the Louisville football team specifically. Thanks for coming on. This is turning into a pretty important game for these two teams after Louisville lost to Miami. They don't really want 2 losses in a row at this point in the season. For Pitt, a chance to start 3-0 for the first time in a long time and to build a nice lead in the conference at 2-0. Does this feel like a big game from the other side of things? It certainly feels like a big game here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Louisville had a really bad taste in the mouth after that Miami game. I think they let that game go with how poorly they played in the first half offensively, and then how poorly they played in the second half defensively. Just the two sides have never really connected. And I think they still have aspirations of making the ACC championship game. So if you want to do that, I've said all along, they have Notre Dame coming in 2 weeks. I think they had you through the first 5 games with only 2 losses. So winning this game is pretty important for them.
Most of the talk here in Pittsburgh has been about the incredible offensive weapons that Louisville has at its disposal. What makes those guys so good? Is it just the pure athleticism? It seems like the scheme has also allowed them to really freelance as necessary and make full use of their athletic abilities too.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix of both. I mean, Tutu Atwell is just a freak. I mean, he runs a 4.2, like high 4.2 40. I think and I was talking to somebody the other day, made a point that he might be more athletic with the ball in his hands than he is without it, which is rare. Justice Patrick is another NFL receiver on the outside. And then you have 2 dynamic running backs in Javian Hawkins, who's an all-ACC guy, and Hassan Hall, who is day-to-day right now after he got hurt against Miami. Then there's Malik Cunningham. I mean, he's a really dynamic quarterback who continues to be more confident in the pocket, can use his legs if the play breaks down. So their scheme puts them in the right places at the right times with how much they use their playmakers as decoys at times. And so I think it's a good mix of both, but they do have a ton of playmakers.
This feels like a pretty classic strength versus strength. Obviously, the strength of Pitt's team is its defense. The pass rush is incredible. They have, I think it's 10 sacks through 2 games, and they have a couple safeties that can turn the ball over as well. And DeMar Hamlin and Paris Ford. How do you feel like that lines up? I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Pitt's defense. These 2 teams, unfortunately, don't get to see each other very often. But do you feel like that is the more important matchup, or is it on the other side of the ball where both teams have, frankly, struggled a little bit?
No, I think it's strength for strength. I mean, I think Louisville's got to find a way to slow down Pitt's pass rush. And I think the nice thing for Pitt is that, I mean, they can pretty much get pass rush with just their front line. They don't have to really get too creative with their blitzes. They just have so much talent up front. Louisville has 2 new tackles. This would be their 3rd game starting. I think they played pretty well through the first 2. Louisville's only given up 4 sacks this year, and they played. I mean, West Kentucky isn't a powerhouse, but they have an NFL caliber player at the end in D'Angelo Malone, and then Miami's line is pretty good as well. So they've held up pretty well. And Louisville doesn't normally turn the ball over. They turn the ball over against Miami, but that's not something they usually do. They're usually pretty efficient. So I think it's a strength versus strength. I think if Pitt can come out and and contain Louisville's offense. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's an offense that you can stop, but I think it's something like Miami where you contain it for a half and I think gives Kenny Pickett a chance to kind of really get their offense going a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Pitt's offense has not been dynamic the last couple of years. They went from a run-heavy offense to a pass-heavy offense, and from the 2018 to 2019, but they still didn't score a ton of points last year. But this Louisville defense certainly has some holes that I think can be exploited. I was watching that game against Miami, and I was like, did they just forget about installing the defense this camp? Like that's what it looked like at times. Just guys not knowing what they're doing. What's your take on this Louisville defense, and can they be better than they showed against Miami?
Yeah, I think they can. I think the Miami game was so weird because there were really two sides of it. I mean, you saw the first half where they were finally able to get some pressure on the other team and get creative. I thought they were good. I mean, they held them to 3 field goals. Miami had to hit a 58-yard field goal at one point. That's not something you expect in college. But then you have the second half where they just have mental mistakes. I mean, somebody's playing a play action when they should be guarding their man, or they stunt inside when they should be holding the edge. It's just mental mistakes that plagued this defense all of last year. And then for first 6 quarters of this year, they didn't. And then it hit all at once in the third and fourth quarter against Miami, and it cost them the game. So I think they can be pretty sound, but they're very much a bend but don't break defense, but one that tends to break a little bit more than it bends. So if they can kind of contain and just keep things in front of them, I think that's when they're at their best.
We were just talking before we started recording about your travel plans for this weekend coming up to Pittsburgh to cover the game. This will be the first time on the road for this Louisville team in the middle of a pandemic. How do you think that's going to impact the way the team plays on the field, dealing with different travel protocols and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't think it will affect them too much. I think much of that has to do with Scott Satterfield and the staff. They are very much a very task-oriented, detail-oriented staff. They don't really get into a lot of different things. They don't really get too high after big plays or big wins, and they don't really get too low after big losses. So I think they'll be fine. The only really difference for them is that they have to get on a flight. They've been staying in the hotel when they're even living and playing here in town. So the only difference is getting on a flight there and getting on a flight back. So I think they'll be fine with that. I think the biggest thing would just be no fans in the stands, because Louisville allows, I think, just over 12,000 fans. That might be the biggest difference of anything.
Yeah, it's been pretty stark with no fans at Heinz Field and just kind of what you can hear on the field. I think that's been the biggest thing is that, Pitt played Austin Peay, and I think a walk-on wide receiver kind of juked somebody, and you could hear the reaction from the whole Pitt sideline, clear as day, guys getting into it. And I think if you end up with a physical game, maybe things get a little bit tighter, tense. That could be certainly bring up some situations where you don't necessarily want the other sideline to be hearing everything that you're saying when you're over there.
Right.
So I think that could be something to watch for. Anything else about this game that you're looking forward to, or just from your point of view, what are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Pitt does. I think, and I imagine you probably think the same, but I think this is Pitt's first real big test. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Syracuse is going to be that good this year. And then Austin Peay is Austin Peay, I think. So I'm interested to see how that offense does. Louisville is not a powerhouse defensively by any means. But I think they can, at times when they're playing well, they're able to contain offenses. And I know Pitt's not like this explosive offense like Miami was, but I'm interested to see how that matchup goes as well.
Yeah, something else to watch for in that regard is Pitt's offense throughout the years has had some trouble in the red zone, and their kicker, Alex Kessman, who is a veteran and an upperclassman guy, 0 for 3 to start the year. So that's something that I know Pitt fans will be holding their breath the first time he goes out there. I don't know what he's been thinking, but a guy with a ton of experience has the Heinz Field record for the longest field goal, but has not been super consistent. So a couple other things I want to talk to you about. You're a Bowling Green native. I know that the MAC is talking about coming back. I've been missing the MACtion in my life. Tuesdays and Wednesdays have not been the same. What's your sense? Is that something that's going to happen here, do you think?
I hope so. I have a couple of friends who cover football on the MAC. I haven't talked to them that much about it, but I hope so. It's weird. It's like I know it's because when you cover college football, you don't get a lot of chance to really watch a lot of it on Saturdays. But it's been weird not being able to check the score of the Bowling Green game and just see how things are going over there. But MACtion's the best, especially the midweek games. I mean, those games are always insane because MAC teams pull out all the stops to win games.
Yeah, we've got a lot of local players from the Pittsburgh area that end up going to those MAC schools too. So it's a lot of fun for
And
us. Toledo's had a bunch of local guys, and
yeah, I actually covered. Man, did I think Pitt went to the bowl in Detroit
yes, last.
my junior year at college.
Oh, that
They
one.
played
Yeah,
Bowling Green.
that was the year Aaron Donald
Aaron
and
Donald.
James Conner were there. Yeah.
Right, and that was the year BG won the MAC title. And I remember covering that game and thinking, I was like, this Aaron Donald guy's amazing. I was like, he's so good. I didn't think he'd be what he is now, but I was like, this guy is. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was in the press box next to me and thinking he might actually flatten Matt Johnson, who was the quarterback for BG. I said, he's really, really good.
Well, now he's just taken to. I don't know if you saw the video from Sunday, but he just threw an offensive lineman like 5 yards by his arm.
It's unbelievable.
He's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And I can't let a Cleveland guy on a show in Pittsburgh off the hook without talking about the Browns a little bit. What's going on? Baker Mayfield, is he the answer? Is there question marks there? Is that a thing yet?
I don't know. I've gone back and forth. I've always been a Baker believer, and I'll like support him in front of people who aren't Browns fans, but like there's a lot of I would say that a lot of people are losing patience back home. I know me and my brother talk every Sunday after the Browns game, and we are losing a lot of patience. So it was nice to beat the Bengals, but they are also the Bengals, so you expect to beat the Bengals. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes.
Well, Cameron, I really appreciate you coming on, and you can find his work, of course, at the Courier-Journal's website and at CJ_Teague on Twitter. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'll get to give you a socially distanced hello in the press box this Saturday, and safe travels to and from Pittsburgh. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you hopefully sometime soon. Thanks again to Cameron for joining me. And again, give him a follow on Twitter at CJ_Teague for the Louisville perspective of the events that happened this Saturday at Heinz Field. And of course, no fans in the building, as we discussed, at Heinz Field this weekend. But that could be changing in the future. I guess possibly the Steelers and Panthers have announced that no fans through the games in the month of September. And of course, with the month nearing its end and a Pitt home game on October 3rd against NC State, the question remains as to whether or not that policy will change. Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi on Thursday was quite vocal about wanting and even begging Governor Tom Wolf to let at least the Panthers' parents into the game at some point this season. Here's a little clip of what Pat had to say on Thursday.
You guys got any connections with the governor? It's just, I guess I need to do a PSA with the governor, but, just like to, ask, Governor Wolf if he please let us, have a few fans in the stands. I mean, Governor, please, I plead, I feel bad for our kids. I mean, this is not, you will look around the country and see people have, fans in the stands, and he made a decision, which is for the safety of everybody in Pittsburgh, which, I agree with. But, there's fans all over the country in stands, and we want to continue to be safe in Pittsburgh. I still want to make sure the numbers are going down, not going up. So I understand why he's done it, and I think there's a safe way to at least have our parents at a game. If we can get our kids' parents. My wife and kids can stay home. Our coach, it's not about them. It's about our kids and their parents being able to watch them play, something they've done since they were Pee-wee football. And again, if Heinz Field's good enough and big enough to put, if we could have 10 parents in each section and still be pretty. We could keep 60 feet distance and still be able to take care of our parents.
Whether or not the fans are able to be in attendance at Heinz Field going forward, Pittsburgh Sports Now will continue to do our best to bring you our coverage from inside the gates as the fans are unfortunately shut out. I'll be there this Saturday along with photographer David Haig, and you can follow along with all of our coverage at Pittsburgh Sports Now as usual. Moving on to the high school side of things, another WPIAL Football Friday, as we've now been given some clarity about what will happen with the postseason in both the WPIAL and the PIAA. The PIAA has announced that the state championships will be held the weekend of Thanksgiving, with 2 to 3 weekends of state playoffs, depending on the classification before that. So it appears that there will be a couple weekends at least of WPIAL playoffs, 3 weekends in Class A through 5A, and 2 weekends of postseason in the 8-team Class 6A. So feels good to have a better grasp on what matters when it comes to how many teams will be making the postseason in each classification as these games move on and we move through the regular season. Tonight, I will be at Graham Field in Wilkinsburg, my first time there since they've done pretty extensive renovation, from what I've been told, to see Central Catholic host North Allegheny, and what is always a matchup that is both an impressive one from a team perspective, as both teams are once again thought to be among the class of Class 6A, along with the likes of a Pine Richland in that classification, perennial contenders, if you will, for a title, but also because there are generally some really good players on those two teams, and this season is no exception. One member of our PSN top prospects list for the WPIAL class of 2021 is Khalil Dinkins, who plays a little wide receiver, plays a little tight end, plays a little linebacker, and plays a little defensive back for North Allegheny, the son of former Pitt standout. Darnell Dinkins is definitely a Division I prospect, has a Pitt offer, Michigan, among others, and certainly one of the top remaining available prospects in the WPIAL class of 2021, as well as Nathan Hoke, who is committed to BYU in the footsteps of his father, but another definite Power 5 type of player, even though BYU is an independent. Certainly a talented young man. I'm looking forward to seeing him. And on the central side, of course, the Vikings always seem to have a group of top prospects. Eddie Tillman, the running back, and a junior J.D. Younger, a safety, and also a running back at times, is a player that I'm excited to see. I think he is one of the top players locally in the class of 2022 that's not quite getting enough attention. So that will be where my attention will be focused this Friday evening, and then, of course, to Heinz Field Saturday and Sunday for Pitt, Louisville, and Steelers Texans. Thanks for watching the Friday Football Show. As always, I appreciate it. Got a comment? Leave it here. We'll bring it up next time. You think I'm wrong? Tell me so. I'm not afraid to make fun of myself when I am. Also, I may come at you if you're wrong. So fair play both ways, and make a prediction, make a bold statement, and let's have some fun and watch some football however and wherever you're able to watch it this weekend. Thanks as always for watching the Friday Football Show. For everyone at Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now, and SteelersNow.com, I'm Alan Saunders. Thanks for watching.